Welcome, Capricorn. This is your end of the month for March 2020 video. There is already a video that came out for the first of March. This is going to be about the butt end, about the time that occurs after the full moon. I will attach that video below for your full moon. It is specific to Capricorn rising signs, and it will give you more in-depth understanding to some of the things I'm going to touch on here, which is a big T-square we have that we're feeling right now. Today's date is, I'm still in the beginning of March. It's about March 6th, and we are in the middle of a T-square between the North Node, the South Node, and Chiron in Aries. But this video has so much more than that. This is going to be about the new moon wishes, your new moon intentions. I am calling it all metaphysicians, stand up. Stand up, be seen, be heard. It is time to show the universe what you know. Here we go. This is the new moon time. It is a time, believe it or not, what is the new moon? It is the time when we can't see the moon. It's a time of darkness. It's when the moon is completely hidden from us. And what do we do when we plant seeds? We put them in the earth. We put them in the earth's womb. We put them in the dirt. It is the darkness. It is there where our intentions grow. It is where we put our thought, our emotions, which are energy, feelings, down into these wishes, into these hopes, into these dreams, and we plant those seeds, and the universe responds. Here is your new moon breakdown and all of the beautiful supportive energies that we have. We have sextiles. We have grand earth trines. Capricorn, this is a big deal. I want you to listen up and pay attention. I'm going to be giving you degrees and dates when we have the opportunity for a grand earth trine. All right, if you were Capricorn ascendant, Capricorn rising, look at your chart and find out what degree is your rising. If you don't understand that, because it is complicated and there's just a whole bunch of jargon that's used sometimes that we don't comprehend, and that's fine, comment your birth digits below. I will very easily be able to pull your stuff up and say, hey, this is you, or hey, this isn't you. And we'll have a greater understanding if you are going to expect some major ease coming your way, which for folks, this could include some money because Uranus and Taurus is involved. So before I go any further, let's just comprehend. We need to watch this video. Stay right here. This whole month all the way through, there should be some telling things that occur and maybe some awesome surprises. So let's dive deep into the all astrology. All right, folks, here we go. This is Capricorn ascendant, Capricorn rising. You had a full moon that occurred on the 9th/10th of March, depending upon where in the world you live. At that time with the full moon, you are experiencing a big T-square. And actually the T-square began as soon as March began. It's the nodal axis. You've got one of the nodes in Capricorn, your sign, and the other node in Cancer. Now, understanding where the nodes are is important because this is where the eclipses have been occurring. And it is also where the final eclipses of Cancer and Capricorn will be occurring in 2020. Right? We get more eclipses that come about in June and July. And so those will be wrapping up the final eclipse periods. Eclipses are reset points. Eclipses represent change. So always knowing if you have a planet at a degree of an eclipse is going to be vital, or if you have a point. Points would be like your IC, your ascendant, your descendant, your midheaven. Those are big trigger points. Because when something happens at home, then something usually happens at work. There's this whole oppositional energy that is a very real thing. It's this happened here and it shoots energy up here and so it triggers this. Same with the rising and the descendant. If something happens here, it affects over here as well. So I am going to start off with the days before the full moon, okay? And that is just going in a little bit deeper on the nodal stress we experience. Again, if you haven't watched your full moon video, I'll attach it below so that you can go deeper with this and understand. But basically, there's a stress to yourself, okay? And in that video, it explains where it happens in your life and it breaks it down. But understanding that you personally are being stressed, and you're being stressed by the areas of your life that have Cancer and Capricorn in it. Okay, the Cancer energy holds the North Node right now. The Capricorn energy holds the South Node. South nodes regardless of what sign it's in. The South Node is about what we're releasing. It's an area that we've already mastered, so to speak. It's something we've already learned. And what happens when you're in school and you learn something, you take the test, and it's like, bam, you pass. And so what do? You graduate. You move on. You go up. Okay? You take the next best thing for your evolution, the next best experience, the next thing that's going to give you more growth. And so we move away from the South Node and we try to learn and incorporate the North Node, the opposing energy. This is kind of like your expertise, it's your mastery, your South Node. The North Node is the area that was kind of neglected. We just didn't take the classes, we didn't spend the time, it didn't hold our interest then. But now we're going to be focusing on, that is in Cancer energy. Capricorn energy, what you were letting go of, what you were releasing, what you already mastered, was setting up structures, organizing. It is all about, these are the rules. This is where I've learned, where I've mastered how to work step by step, methodically, how to follow the rules. I knew there wasn't going to be a shortcut. I just went ahead and I did exactly what was asked of me. I was extremely responsible. This was the South Node in Capricorn. All right, the Capricorn energy is evolving, it's changing. The brick and mortar stores are ending. It's fascinating when we look at how this has happened over the last 10 years of our lives. It was this sudden like, oh my God, they're out of business, right? So now you go into a brick and mortar store, if it still exists, and you find out they're only carrying a few things there. They even have signs up in the stores now. If you can't find such and such, they urge you to go online because it's all evolving, it's changing. It's incorporating more technology, which is Uranus energy, folks. And Uranus is in Taurus. And this is relevant because it's all, Taurus is what do I value? What do we value? And the embracing of technology, Uranus, is 100% obvious in our life. We see it. We are kind of not trapped in it, but now we realize, okay, if I want to exist, like I've got to have a smartphone. You've got to just, if you want to be in the know, right? We have this instant technology at our fingertips. We have devices where we can do, basically on this handheld device, we're like doing the whole Star Trek thing. Anything I can do on my laptop, I can do on my handheld device. So it's embracing this. And that means all these other things in our lives have to change. So when we have to swing over to the other side of this node, the Cancer energy is more about my tribe. It's more about emotional satisfaction, emotional security. It's about home. It's about family. It is about, when you think of the word home, and we think of when we're really, really, really tiny, where was our home? When we were really, really tiny, our home was in our mother's womb. But if we go up to a big scale, now Capricorns, I actually haven't really done this with the other signs, but I'm going to do it with you. Because when we take that and elevate it, right? Let's get out of the 3D world, because that is very much Saturn and Capricorn energy. It is more about the reality, what I can actually touch, what I can actually physically see, what I can actually smell. It is all about, the tangible, okay? It's all about, wow, the dimensions of this. I can measure it. Totally Capricorn, totally. It's measurable stuff. When we go to the Cancer side, can we measure emotions? Can we measure folks that we consider family? Can we measure emotional security? Can we put a price tag on it? Can we put a value on it? This is an incorporation of things that we had organized and structured, and then we are literally lifting them and raising them up so that they now involve more of this stuff. Somehow, when we have folks in our lives and beings who are emotionally satisfied, where nurturing becomes part of our being, part of our teaching, part of our living, part of the way we just express, and part of our philosophy, when we incorporate that, we elevate ourselves as individual beings. And every time an individual being elevates themselves by holding themselves accountable and responsible for their own emotional security, then little by little, piece by piece, as humanity, as a race, we evolve, we grow together. So when we get to the together and the grow thing, because the moon, rules the sign of Cancer. The moon typically also on a large scale, the sign of Cancer, represents humanity. People, I've heard the term the public, but it represents humanity, okay? Because think about humanity's mother. What planet do we live on? Right, we live on the Earth. And on living on the Earth, the womb for humanity would then be Mother Earth's womb. Okay, so at the time of the new moon energy, we had Venus who had just entered the sign of Taurus. Now, this is a beneficial thing. Venus in Taurus is then adding to the Uranus energy in Taurus. Uranus at that time is hovering between 3 and 4 degrees. Venus gets in Taurus, so she's supporting Taurus. Venus rules Taurus. It loves being there. There's no real upsets unless you have something squaring those degrees. The Aquarian energy, right? Because we're going to look for like energy. So Aquarius would be in your second house, is what you value. It's the house of Taurus, actually. So it's like Uranus squaring Uranus in a sense. So this could be a difficult time. And I'll dip into this a little bit further towards the end because the planet Saturn will literally be dipping into your second house, and you're going to want to know what the heck that's going to mean. The second house, people, remember this, the second house is also our tangible resources, okay? But let's talk a little bit more about the new moon energy. The new moon energy is all about making intentions. And for you, Capricorn ascendant, Capricorn rising, this is at 4 degrees Aries, and your Arian energy is in your 4th house. Like the number 4s, they come up big for you actually, because we have a lot of other sextiles and trines that are also at the 4 degrees. You heard me mention Uranus and Taurus at 4 degrees. The Taurus energy actually at this time, it's a semi-sextile, which is good. It's not like a grand Earth trine. It's not even a trine, but it adds ease in some way. It's not gigantically huge, but because it's in Taurus, it almost sends a grounding type of an energy, meaning it's Earth, it's tangible, it's 3D, and when we have a wish, that's the kind of energy we want. Something where we can make the wish come true. And when we say we make a wish come true, what does that mean as human beings? It means, well, if I say, I wish for a yellow long lighter. Boop. Oh shit, it happened just like that, right? So for us, that means if it happens in the 3D world, it's a real thing. So having grounding energy supporting a wish is very cool right now. We also, let me give you some more dates and degrees. We also actually, how about March 21st, March 22nd, March 23rd? These are the days preceding the new moon. We are going to have the Cancer and Capricorn nodes now have moved to 4 degrees, right? We have the Uranus, I already said, at 4 degrees. We also have Mercury in Pisces at 4 degrees. Now, the Piscean energy is a sextile to the Uranus energy, to Taurus energy, I should say. And it is also going to send a semi-sextile to your 4-degree Aries new moon. A new moon is when the sun and the moon are right there together on the same spot. Now, the Chiron is also at this time near this. The Chiron is at 5 degrees of Aries. And that was where you felt the most uncomfortable back at the beginning of the month around the full moon time. Because at the full moon time, we had Chiron at like 3.5, 4 degrees, and it was majorly squaring the nodes when they were at 3.5, 4 degrees. But this square still exists somewhat, right? Because Chiron's only moved 1 degree. And the nodes are at 4 degrees. So there's still an uncomfortable thing going on. And your Aries energy, being in your 4th house and feeling this uncomfortable, this friction, this stress, this testing in the home, there's something about your home life. There is something about your emotions. There is something about your security. And it has to do with family. It has to do with yourself in the home physically. Because it's the Aries energy. Aries represents our body. Aries can also represent the head. Keep that in mind. But there are emotional thoughts too, because when we think of our emotional security, it's the moon It is the fourth house. Having Aries there means you might be a little sensitive about yourself, about your physical self. When you look in the mirror, there might be feelings and emotions where if you don't look just so, right, you may have negative thoughts to yourself. So that big T-square you were experiencing, it was coming from yourself and from your committed one-on-one relationships. Your Capricorn energy, your Cancer energy is on your descendant. All right, so this would be people who, if you're married, that's your spouse. If you have friends and they're very close to you, like to the degree where you compromise with them and you've just had them around and they feel like family, you might be getting friction and stress from them, right? They kind of mess with your emotions. They make you, maybe there's some self-doubt that occurs, especially at the full moon time. Again, you need to go watch that video because there's a whole bunch of other things that are occurring around the full moon, and it will totally add clarity, and then it won't be so much confusion and maybe help you to not take things so personally. The other square is coming from literally from you. It's on your ascendant, which means it's where you're physically located. So it could be, again, your physical body. There may be things physically, your structure. You've got Capricorn on the rising, so bones, knees, your spine. Capricorn's all about the structures of the physical body. So these things were squaring up 4 degrees Aries location. If you don't know where this is, comment your stuff and I can help you figure that out. Let's just put it like this. If you had a huge reaction, because Aries energy is our ego, okay? It's ruled by Mars, so you might flip off real quick. You might go from 0 to 10, even though we're after, I think, after the March, I know now, after March 3rd, the out of bounds Mars chilled. It went back, and it's within the ecliptic. It's not beyond it, so it's not out of bounds anymore. But it's very impulsive energy, very fly off the handle. So we would want to just keep that in check. I want to give some other degrees out. We have Mars at 2352 in Capricorn. We have Jupiter at 2302 in Capricorn. We have Pluto at 2442 in Capricorn. You've got a lot going on, Capricorn ascendant, Capricorn risings, which would have made major changes. It could be where you live, where you work. And usually where we work affects where we live and vice versa. There could have been some health issues. Again, I would need to know your personal stuff to find out, your personal digits to find out how this affected you. And you're also going to want to know if the coming Saturn is at 2959, okay, at this time, at the end of around the 22nd, the 23rd of this month of March. And at that degree, 2959, it's a critical degree. That number in any of the degrees is considered critical because we have something transitioning out of an energy and changing an energy and changing an element. So 2 things change. It leaves Capricorn energy, which is let's start something, which is cardinal, let's take action, which is in earth, which is grounded, which is 3D reality, stuff I can really see and count on, old structures, traditional things. Saturn's transiting out of that and going into Aquarian energy. Now, Aquarian energy is different. It's not going to be super disruptive because in the old school teachings, the traditional teachings said that Saturn was the ruler of Aquarius. So in other words, they get along. Now, the Aquarian energy is air. So it takes a new spin. It says, this very traditional thing, when Saturn, who still represents structures, by the way, when Saturn moves into the Aquarian energy, it only gets to 1.5 degrees and then it retrogrades. It literally goes backwards and goes back into your sign. Now, if you don't have any planets at 25, 26, 27, 28, or 29 degrees Capricorn, it won't be such a big deal for you. But for anybody listening, you will know if you have something there if stuff starts to happen again. This retrograde, we have, I think, July, it's going to come back in. Saturn leaves, and then July of 2020, it comes back into the energy, and we'll start feeling it again. The new moon energy, though, is on the 24th of March, 23rd, 24th, depending upon where you're viewing this from. And by the way, I would love to hear where you're viewing from, and then I can be more specific to the different locations that tune in and that watch. We are having massive support because of all the 4-degree things happening, okay? Uranus at 4 degrees is sending a semi-sextile to the new moon energy. We have Pisces at the 4 degrees, Mercury and Pisces at the 4 degrees, sending a sextile energy. So we have in our disposal, we have universal energy saying, what do you want? What are you going to wish for? What do you want that to look like going forward? This is what you're wishing upon. You're wishing upon, how do I fit in the home? How does my home satisfy me? How does my home add to my emotional security? How does my physical body, because let's think about it, as individuals, as human beings, our physical body, our soul resides in the body. So the body is our tent, is our home. That's one way of looking at it, one perspective. How do we make the body where it feels more like home? Everyone's different shapes, different sizes, and some folks look at somebody and they say, I could never be like that. It wouldn't work for me. I don't feel comfortable. And other people who look really different in a lot of different ways are like, you know what? I'm comfortable like this, believe it or not. People look at me and they think, oh my God, how could you do that? And they'll be like, you know what? But I feel good in my skin. I'm happy with me just the way I am. So this might be something that comes up because it would have been triggers that happened with others in your life. And it's going to make you think things through, how to be more emotionally secure in your body. This is you, Capricorn ascendant, Capricorn rising, because the Aryan energy is typically placed in your 4th house. Now, you might be somebody who's looking at their chart and are confused and says, hey, I'm looking at this 4-degree thing and you're telling me it should be in my 4th house. But if I'm reading this right, it looks like it's in my 3rd. That's a possibility. You want me to double check? Just don't hesitate. Comment. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean your chart's wrong. Okay, you're looking at likely a chart that shows you have houses that are not equal. Some are really tiny. Some are really big. This is normal. This is typical, and it can get confusing, right? And so we're here as a community. You got questions? Put them down there in the comments. Others can learn from your questions because then I will get to them and I will respond. And people like, that's it. Now I understand. So Capricorn ascendant, Capricorn rising, your new moons are all about home, your physical home. I want you to realize something, that what you felt like your physical home should look like and should be, that's changing and evolving. Now I know you already know that, but wherever we have the Aryan energy, right, the sign of Aries in our chart, this is typically where we tend to be a little naive. This is where our thinking process tends to be young, right? The sign of Aries is, I keep calling it the fine wine. It is where we are learning to develop more layers of our thinking. It has to age, and as it ages, it learns to incorporate what it thinks and what it's passionate about, but it also learns to take into consideration what others think and what others are passionate about. Not that it has to latch on, but to at least consider other perspectives. And so, because that is in your home, you're going to be realizing what you once thought you wanted in your home, you don't want anymore because you're changing, you're growing, and this is good. We're supposed to grow. However, we kind of forget that change is a needed ingredient in growth. And as humans, we typically resist change. So embrace it as best that you can. I'm right there with you. The struggle is very real when it comes to change. I have a lot of fixed energy in my chart, and so I do understand that. But Uranus is being a good teacher, and it is teaching me to stay flexible, okay? So at the end of the month, we have Saturn moving, transiting. Whenever a planet transits out of a sign and into this new sign, even if we can look at it logically and understand it, there is still an uncomfortableness that happens. There is going to be an additional uncomfortable element that's occurring because we have Mars involved. And when Mars gets involved, Mars and Saturn become conjunct, okay? Well, Mars is a fighter and it's a little young. Saturn is like the general. Mars is the soldier. So Mars has to basically, Saturn has to step in and say, but these are the rules. This is how it's supposed to be done. You didn't follow the rules, so this is what you need to go do. Go do 1,000 push-ups or some shit, right? That's what happens there. And Mars recognizes and says, okay, right, I have to realize I can't be so impulsive. I can't fight the man, because when I try to fight the man, I get put in the brig, right? So Mars learns to follow the rules. So there is a little bit of this, and it kind of feels like a beating the head against the wall that's going to occur. It's a frustration. It's all happening in your second house, and your second house is money, is your resources, it's your income, it's what you value. So realizing that Mars is a fast transit, right? A fast transit, this isn't going to be for real long. But if you have the knowledge and the understanding, like March 27th, March 28th, March 29th, an irritable, less patient time, you're going to feel like someone's putting limitations on you and rules. That would be Saturn. So it is a time where I have the words written down, disciplined energy. And that would be Mars meeting Saturn. I've trained you, you're the soldier, and now you need to be disciplined. You need to follow all the rules, follow all the guidelines we've given you, and you will then be very effective. Okay, and I'm not a fan of using the whole military type of examples, but unfortunately Mars is the warrior. I hope that helps, and just keep in mind that there is relief in sight coming, and this month has so many promising trines and aspects by way of sextiles and semi-sextiles from Mercury and Uranus that I truly believe this is a change that we're all going to be feeling for the better. We just have to have more patience as usual and be the metaphysician. Use the energy that's available and set your intentions. Those intentions are to be set the 24th. I would say the later part of the day of the 24th, depending upon where you live, or the later, wherever, get your chart and find out for where you're located. 4 degrees Aries, is the sun there and the moon there at the same time? When they are, you want to wait for the moon to move a little bit further into the sign of Aries. So just wait later, right? Till the moon moves 1 degree every 2 hours. So the recommendation is when it gets to like in the middle of Aries, when it's like at 15 degrees, it's there, it's solid. We're no more feeling hurtful because we had the Chiron, right? Because the sun and the moon are going to be conjunct the Chiron, which represents a wound, something that we are healing from, something that we're, again, go watch that video, that explains more of it. But once we get away from hurt and emotions, we become more logical and clear. And understanding that it is that hurt about yourself, that emotion about yourself, that old wound that came up, you're incorporating that. That is part of your new moon intention. It is how I can feel better about myself. What does it take for that? What do I need to incorporate? Who do I want to be involved in that? And think of my body as my home and how I can be okay with that, emotionally secure with that. And also in the physical home, right? The roof over my head home. And don't forget about the earth. She's part of this too. All right, so Capricorn, Ascendant Capricorn rising, I hope this has put some light upon your path.